Big Ed here, and today I am bringing another installment on my Remington 700 build right here. And if you've been watching this series, you'll see how I've basically bought this rifle from Dick's Sporting Goods. It was a Varmint Edition 308, and I've built it up. The newest edition right here is a Timney trigger right here, and this is from the 510 series, and this is actually the model Timney 512 trigger. And the only difference with this one than the regular 510 is this trigger is nickel plated, and so you'll see the trigger itself and the safety lever is nickel plated. Basically I did this for popular demand, and everybody's saying like sweet rifle, awesome rifle, but you should put a Timney trigger in there. And Timney triggers are kind of like the Chevy 350 of triggers. They're not the most expensive trigger out there, but you're going to get a very fine trigger for the money. And I spent a lot of time reading up on them. It was kind of every time, I did a Google search or I spoke to somebody, they were just like Timney 510. So I went along with it. Usually I would have put this in myself, but I'm back in Vermont for the winter, and I did not have time to put the trigger in myself, nor did I have punch pins that thin, and my local hardware store did not. So I was looking at them online and I couldn't find punch pins with a good review, and I didn't feel like buying them, so I was like, I paid a local gunsmith that I like a lot up here in Vermont at Cragen's. Paul at Cragen's installed the trigger for me and charged me $25, so I was very happy with that. I mean, he let me sit along for the second half of it, but it's not the most difficult thing to do to install a trigger. And here are the directions right here. Basically, it's two punch pins to take the trigger out, and this is the old X-Mark Pro that came in the rifle right here, and that's just how it sits in the rifle. Obviously there's the trigger, here's your safety, and that's just a little unit right there. There's your bolt release right there, and the new one looks just like this except for it's black. But the difference is in the internals. Everything in the Timney will be finely polished, and I like this trigger, I had no problems with it, but the Timney is definitely a big improvement. So I picked it up yesterday from Cragen's, and I basically, we dry fired it a couple times, put a couple snap caps in it, and I can't remember the exact spec, but I believe it comes from the factory, 2.5 pounds, the trigger. And it's definitely, it's not probably a good hunting trigger, but excellent for a rifle like this, for a target trigger. Or else, you got to be real careful with it. I would definitely carry it, probably with an empty chamber if you're hunting with a rifle like this with a light trigger, even with the safety on. But that can be your call. But the trigger is phenomenal, and the big noticeable difference in it is actually where you put the pad of your finger, the trigger itself, the width of it. It's probably at least 50-60% wider than this trigger right here, and this is the X-Mark Pro right here from Remington. But I believe I paid about $110 for that, another eBay purchase. So I'm really happy with it. It basically came with this little, like a quote from God, a little Bible thumping for you, and the directions. And I'm going to save the old one and I'll list it on eBay. But basically, you just have two pins right here. Two drift pins, punch pins that you're just going to basically, you're going to have to disassemble the rifle and take the barrel out of the stock to access the trigger mechanism. And then you're going to use a punch, knock out your two pins, and it's going to, read the directions because it only wants them inserted from one way. These are also little parts, so it's one of those things that looks easy, and it probably is, but I would take your time doing it because it's not these big heavy-duty parts. They're very fine little pins. And your bolt release is it's very finely machined, these pieces. So you want to take your time and make sure you have positive function. And I've already gone through all the function with this, and make sure it releases the bolt. Also make sure you can pull it, when the safety's on, you can pull the trigger, and the safety works. Give it a couple little taps, but I went through all that, with cycling the bolt. And a lot of, make sure the rifle's still safe with the trigger in it. And it is. And the one thing I noticed when I did dry fire, and I haven't even shot it yet with this trigger in it, but it's an amazing trigger. And it definitely, it shocked me as soon as I shot it for my first time. It definitely surprised me. I barely put any force on it, and the thing, it went off right away. So I can tell it's really going to help with accuracy, because I believe that really helps you when you shoot a gun, any gun, and it kind of surprises you a little bit. As soon as you hit that trigger, it releases your firing pin, and that's pretty cool. So I'm really excited to go shoot it. And I'll probably do another field test with this rifle, with the trigger installed in it. But I'll give you a couple close-ups now with the trigger installed, and that's the back of the directions right there. But no, I'm very happy with it. And the other thing is, it's got a cool look to it. It definitely looks cool. The big nickel plated. It's got big fat. It's got serrations on the trigger. So it definitely adds a cool little look of the nickel plating to the rifle. But thanks a lot. And basically the only reason I did this upgrade right here is because the viewers on YouTube, they kept on asking me for it, and so I looked at it, and so here we go. The other thing I'm thinking about doing, if people have also started talking to me about the scope, and why I went with this scope right here, the fixed 12 power, and basically because of the quality, the durability, the tracking for it. This is a military approved scope right here, the 10X is. So, I'm going to guess the 12X version of this is the newer one, the SWFA, will be just as good as the 10X, and, it's basically, it has, perfect tracking, reliable tracking, it's durable, it's rugged. Also, the optical clarity is probably the biggest one for me. How nice of an image you're looking through it, when you're shooting the rifle and looking at something through the scope. But a lot of people have talked to me about first focal plane variable powered scopes, and yes, I do have a few of those. 2x7s, a lot of 3x9s on my rifles. 3x9s I think are very useful scopes. They're good for a long, a lot of stuff up close and then stuff very far away. But one scope I've been looking at that doesn't break the bank, and people have dropped Night Force at me and Smith & Bender, and that's still, those are great. I don't, that's not quite in my budget right now, but what I am looking at, just wanted to get feedback from you folks, is the Vortex Viper PST 4x16. And that's their, one of their high-end scopes, and that's got the big turrets, the tactical style turrets, that you can just adjust on the fly like that. So just wanted to see what you folks, and it's had a 30 mil tube, first focal plane reticle, what you folks thought about that. And I'm seeing on eBay, basically the list price for that scope's $900. And I'm seeing them for probably, I can sneak one up for maybe $700 on eBay. So I just wanted to see what you folks thought about that, and if you liked it or not. But if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Feel free to subscribe, and any questions, post below. Or any suggestions to do to this rifle. But I really like the the feedback from viewers, with the trigger and the scope, and it's definitely fun, and I'm enjoying building this rifle, and figured it'd be done by now, but it's this process that keeps on going. So thanks, and keep on watching. Have a good day, and happy shooting.